Yes, the Druid. Another one of BTD's goated towers. The Druid is a relatively new tower to the BTD franchise, only existing in BTD6 and Battles 2. But to be honest, it fits in quite well with the game meta. The tower is quite simple in its base form. It throws a handful of thorns with a shotgun-like spread. Each thorn can pop one balloon, but it can stack at close ranges to one-shot a single green or yellow balloon. Because of that, it's a good chimp starting tower, because it can reliably clear round 6 with the support of a dart monkey or a sub.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
Anyways, the main attack can be enhanced by a selection of simple thorn upgrades and what kind of heart the Druid has. Each of the tier 1 and 2 upgrades have their own interactions with each path, so I'll cover them in more detail later. But they can pretty much be summed up as pretty good, mid, and risky. But enough rambling, let's get right into it. I have to say, Ninja Kiwi has been cooking up a storm with the top path. In the recent patch, the small tornadoes were buffed, so they now home in on nearby balloons. This is an amazing change since it no longer requires balloons to be within breathing distance to be blown back. These changes were most notable in the Druid of the Storm, because its tornadoes were the sole reason why I was drawn away from the upgrade in the first place. But that version of the Druid has come and gone, so I can now comfortably say that the Druid of the Storm is a decent early game staller for its price. However, it does need some assistance with popping Moabs. Ball Lightning is a pretty self-explanatory upgrade. On top of its improved tornadoes, the Druid fires large lightning balls that freeze balloons and fire their own lightning bolts. This makes it great at dispersing ceramic rushes since the tornadoes blow back a large portion of the balloons, while the lightning balls freeze and pop the leftovers. However, the upgrade's 5k price tag and long list of weaknesses really hurts its viability compared to other stalling towers. Wrapping up the path, we have the Superstorm. At the cost of your left kidney, the Druid creates massive tornadoes that can push back Moabs, BFBs, and ZRMGs. While this may look overpowered at first, the pushback falls into the trap of Old Psy, where it's too effective for its own good. Sure, the Superstorm is great for stalling out ability cooldowns, but it gets tedious to watch, especially deep into freeplay. Superstorm also gets innate camo detection, so it can blow back DDTs. But I find it a bit strange that it's given now of all upgrades, but it's still better late than never, I guess. While Superstorm is good for regular rounds, it has a hard time with bads and bosses. Superstorm relies heavily on its blowback gimmick to be good against Moab class balloons, so with that removed, it gets overrun very quickly. But if you're planning on bringing this in chimps, I suggest purchasing a couple of First Strikes or Spike Storms to ensure that you can pop the outer layer of the bad. Regrow farming is another issue that crops up with this tower. However, 99% of the time it's caused by either bad placement or having defenses that cannot quickly kill regrows. The Heart of Oak crosspath can also eliminate the issue, but you're leaving a lot of DPS on the table when compared to the extra range and attack speed given by the bottom path. The homing tornadoes are a great buff for the top path Druid, but I feel it needs some more fine tuning to be fully balanced. One thing I suggest is moving the camo detection to the tier 4 so it can be more competitive with downdraft. I would also suggest giving the Superstorm tornadoes some extra Moab damage so it doesn't stall out rounds as much. Otherwise, I am very happy with the state of the top path currently. The earlier tiers provide decent blowback potential for their price point, while Superstorm has potential if it didn't have the tendency to make rounds go for twice as long. It's nice to see though that Ninja Kiwi is taking the time to improve off-meta stalling towers to make them more competitively viable, even if it came at the cost of nerfing downdraft. Now for a fan favourite, the middle path. Druid of the Jungle and its upgrades are widely used across all stages of the game, providing great single target and group damage at a relatively cheap cost. The path starts off underwhelming, with an upgrade for a few extra thorns and a basic regrow stripping ability. The former is good for the early game, while the latter is okay at best, but better with further upgrades. The real power of this tower starts with the Druid of the Jungle. On top of its thorns, the Druid gains a global vine attack that latches onto a single balloon and slowly erases it from existence. The vine sits on the track for a few seconds, dealing decent damage to balloons that pass over it. Just bear in mind, these vines can't target or damage lead balloons without the Hard Thorns upgrade. Upgrading it to the jungle's bounty doubles the number of global vines, along with giving the brambles extra damage and pierce. The Druid also gets extra range, and gains a new cash generating ability that scales with the number of farms near the Druid. And if you thought the previous upgrades were good, the Spirit of the Forest is the cream of the crop when it comes to DPS and support hybrid towers. The Druid gets a massive attack speed buff for both its Thorn and Global Vine attacks. The ability now gives 25 lives on top of the cash, and the Druid produces 1000 cash passively at the end of the round. On top of that, the track is covered with infinite pierce vines that deal damage to all balloons that pass over it. The vines ramp up in damage depending on how far away they are from the Druid, and deal bonus damage to ceramic and Moab class balloons. While these track vines can damage camos without camo detection, it still needs hard thorns or a mid to pop leads and DDTs. The only true weakness of the Spirit of the Forest are maps with short track lengths, because it doesn't have enough time to deal good damage to Moab class balloons. As I have alluded to before, Hard Thorns is by far the best upgrade for all three tiers. The Druid of the Jungle is already quite dominant in the early game, so giving it cheap lead popping power helps it get through round 28 and 30 without additional investment into an alchemist or another lead popping tower. It's also better for late game chimps, since you don't need a MIV for the Spirit of the Forest to pop DDTs. I wouldn't bother with the lightning though, because its damage doesn't scale the same way as the top and bottom paths. But if you're willing to invest the extra money, an 042 Druid can be quite good for the mid game when paired with an alchemist at a discount village. The extra range helps it get a higher bonus from farms, and the extra attack speed with lost lives can be quite good when played right. However, you'll need a MIB for it to be effective in the early 90s. Also, the Spirit of the Forest synergizes well with the bottom path village, because it can earn a lot more income from its mate attacks, along with a 20% bonus to its passive and active cash abilities. Overall, Ninja Kiwi has done an excellent job designing the Middle Path Druid. It is a strong generalist tower that provides a perfect balance of DPS and utility that simply cannot be matched by most towers in this price bracket. And to end it off, we have the Angry Druid. Unlike the other paths, all upgrades are centered around improving their base thorns, rather than introducing new attacks. Starting with the Druid of Wrath, the Druid now increases its attack speed based on the damage it deals to balloons. This buff is capped at 100% and stacks with the previous Heart of Vengeance upgrade, but this bonus is reset if the Druid stops attacking for a couple of seconds. Upgrading to Pop Loss grants a buff to surrounding Druids that gives them 15% extra attack speed and pierce. That's it. However, this buff can be stacked up to 5 times on any one Druid, giving a 75% buff. The Pop Loss buff can be applied to any Druid, regardless of the upgrade path, so it's often good to bring along at least 5 Pop Loss, regardless of what path you're using as your DPS. Finally, the Avatar of Wrath improves the Druid's offensive capabilities and turns it into a late game powerhouse.
It's over 9,000!
The Druid gains extra range, attack speed, and increases its base thorn damage to 4. The Avatar of Wrath also gets a +1 damage bonus for every 3000 RBE currently on screen. This buff is capped at +30 or 90,000 RBE, which may seem like a lot, but most rounds in the 90s and free play go well beyond this limit. Thorn Swarm is the go-to upgrade here for the bottom path. In most situations, the raw damage output given by 3 extra thorns goes a lot further than the PS provided by hard thorns. Heart of the Storm can help make up for the lost damage, but it's kind of redundant to use given that the total cost is several times more than Thorn Swarm. This damage disparity can be fixed with some buffs to the top cross path. Firstly, Hard Thorn should grant bonus damage to Moabs to help make up for the fewer thorns. The bonus will start at +1 for the Druid of Wrath, +3 for Poplust, and +5 for the Avatar of Wrath. Also, the lightning should have a base damage of 4 when the Druid is upgraded to the Avatar of Wrath. Even with the buff, this path still has less base damage than Thornswarm. Just bear in mind though that this path also has extra pierce, option for lightning, and can pop lead balloons without a MIP. These changes will make cross-pathing more dependent on player preference, rather than it being unanimously one-sided for every situation. Even with its cross-path flaws, the Avatar of Wrath is by far one of the best TPS towers for chimps. It's simple and reliable for those who are just starting out, while also still holding up well in some of the tougher maps. I might later test how well it plays on expert maps though, but it's still an amazing tower. Well, I hope it was worth the wait after a couple of weeks of work. Thanks for the positive reception on my first video, it is greatly appreciated. Some of you may have noticed that a few of my clips from my previous video were slightly darker than the rest. That was because of a recording error on my part, that is now fixed. I hope. I will be continuing with this series for the foreseeable future, I just need to get my editing skills and upload schedule in check. But enough rambling, I will see you all in the next one. Finally! Oh my gosh, 7 minutes of agony.